Welcome to the Business Performance Podcast, where we feature expert thought leaders and cover their best strategies, stories, and advice that you can use to successfully mature your own business performance. Now, here is your host, business coach, Henry Schneider. Hello, everyone. This is Henry Schneider with the Business Performance Podcast, and today I'm really excited to talk to our youngest guest ever on the podcast. He's a phenomenal young man named Brian Mason, who has recently been named by Yahoo, actually last Thursday, as one of the top 12 entrepreneurs to watch in 2020. So, Brian, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Henry. I'm so excited to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity.
So, I always like to get my guests to start off by putting a little context by describing what you do, your business, and the types of customers and products and services you provide. So, I know you've got two companies, the BizBuzz and the Lux Brand. So can you describe both of them?
Yes, sir. Sure. So Lux Brand, we'll start with that since that's what I started with, right? So Lux Brand, we are the leading provider manufacturer of luxury leather shoelaces in the U.S. So what's unique about us is we manufacture luxury shoelaces that are usually made from Italian lambskin and other exotic leathers. So it's quite the twist on the traditional lace, right? So very fashionable item, allowing people to actually express their sense of fashion through their shoes. All right. And the other company is called BizBuzz. So at BizBuzz, we basically provide integrated marketing management or automation software for small businesses.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about Lux Brand. So you've been in business how long now?
We're going on about 4 or 5 years now. About
Okay.
4 or 5 years. Yep.
So how were you able to get that kick-started and grow because it's a luxury shoelaces?
Yeah. So good question. I think, when I look back at it now, there were a couple of things or a couple of characteristics that really helped me grow that. And one of them was being persistent. I think that is one of the biggest things that I've learned in my entrepreneurial journey so far. And that is just to never give up and just keep going because you never know when that next turn may occur to help you bring your business to fruition. So keep going.
Okay. So how did you come up with luxury shoelaces? How did you know there was a market for it?
Yeah, definitely. Now I feel like there's a market for everything, right? But good question. So I think, one of the biggest things for me, this was kind of a means to an end for me playing my journey in football. So for me, I needed to actually find a way to, basically use my energy outside of what it was normally used for. And so to make a long story short, one day I was a college football athlete, and one day we were released for actual Christmas break. Okay. And on Christmas break, I was sitting there, and I just to make a super long story short, I was sitting there and for me, I just wanted to do something. I wanted to find a way to prove to my parents and my peers that maybe it is okay to get off of a full scholarship and pursue something else in life. So for me, there was a guy named JBF Customs on Instagram, and basically I would see his stuff and I would literally watch him take apart this really nice shoe, and he would literally take it apart and apply other exotic leathers to the shoe. Mm-hmm. So he would replace it and basically, or break it down and build his own shoe. And this fascinated me. I thought this was, very unique, very different. And each shoe that he made had its own unique flair or style. And I thought to myself, maybe this is something I can do, or maybe I can find something along these lines, right? Well, for me, I decided to, take that time and I remember the first thing that I started to do, I had an old shoe. It's actually a pretty popular shoe called an Air Force One. And I decided to get an X-Acto knife and start cutting it in all different types and all different directions to try to figure out how can I take apart the shoe like he did. And what I quickly realized was that, for one, I didn't really have the resources being in Alabama. And also I was in school, so I didn't have the financial resources either, or the time, right? So for me, I needed to find another way to increase the value of a shoe. All right. And that's where I had the idea of shoelaces.
Ah,
So for me, what was different was that I wanted to create a lace that basically was different and untraditional in a sense that if you think about it, in most cases, most people are familiar with the square or like veg tan leather laces that are hard to tie. Maybe they come on boots or something more like a rugged shoe or something like that. Well, I wanted to appeal to the community that was very fashionable, right? So I wanted to create a lace that was really nice, really smooth looking, and can be, in different colors. And basically, it's easier to tie, and people can actually wear it as fashion. So that's kind of where that idea came from.
okay. So I was looking at your LinkedIn page, and I'm curious, did you actually use gold in some of these laces too?
Yeah, so well, there most of the laces we have a premium collection, and that is gold plated. But we do have metallic gold, which is some of our special or premium laces. We have a specialty category, and basically we have like liquid silver or 24K gold, and basically that is just the texture of it and how flashy it is.
Okay. So where are you manufacturing these laces?
Yeah, so manufacturing actually takes a place in Georgia. So we started I remember the days of me actually doing all this by hand, right? I've made thousands of laces, but we started in Alabama, and then actually when we got ready to go on the show for Good Morning America, we basically we partnered with the Easter Seals, and that was very special for me because we were able to actually give equal employment opportunities to people with disabilities. And that was just amazing for me. And I definitely hope to go back and do it soon again as well. But basically, we went from there to Georgia. So now the manufacturing actually goes on here in Georgia.
All right. So but I guess since you're using exotic materials, they must be coming from all over the world.
Yes, correct. So many different places.
Yeah. So what has happened here with the pandemic? Has that kind of slowed down your supply chain for your raw materials?
So actually, in a sense, but a lot of times, one of the big things is right before we got into the pandemic, we were always really trying to make sure that we kept track of what inventory is low so that we can go ahead and place orders. So basically from us, learning through our past mistakes, we have been able to actually really, really get through this without too much hassle.
Okay, cool. All right. So another question I always ask all of my guests is, how do you define the word quality? And quality is a pretty broad term. People like to use it, but it means different things. So how do you define it?
That's a good one. Quality. So, I would define quality as, several different things, maybe the amount of effort that is put into something and the level of detail also that is actually taken into consideration when, for example, like creating something like in our process, right? So I think quality can be defined as a few different things, but I think one of the biggest ones for me is the level of detail that is put into it.
Okay. So since you kind of created your own little niche here with
Right.
high-end shoelaces, what have you, I guess, what are your customers, what have they come to expect from you in terms of what you're delivering to them?
Yeah, quality for sure. So, obviously if we're charging, a premium price for laces, they want quality and they want something unique and something new, right? So what they are expecting is, a company to basically provide a good product, but also that has a meaning behind it and a meaning for culture. Okay. So that's one of the biggest things that we want to pride ourselves on is making sure that we are, basically bringing awareness to the different cultures and the different people who are literally making us or helping us, become successful as well.
Okay. So how are you selling your laces? Are you doing it through like stores, through Amazon, or do they come directly to you to buy them?
Yeah. So there's a couple of different places. So we do have our own website. It's at Lux Brand, lux-brand.com. But we also are on Amazon. We also have some partnerships with like the Grommet and places like that. But we also have landed in Foot Locker stores in Canada. So that has been a very unique thing for us as well. So we are in some retail stores. We are also in several different online channels also.
Okay, so you mentioned about Good Morning America. So how did they find you, and how did you get to be on the TV show?
Yeah, that's a really good one. I get asked that a lot. So one of the biggest things that, and when I now that it is past, I can really reflect on what it really took to get there, right? Because I'll give you a little background, right? Well, one day I woke up to an email from the co-host of the show, and basically they said, "Hey, Ryan, we love your laces and your product, and we would love to have you guys on the show." Well, obviously, if I didn't really think about it, or I didn't think about the context and the things that happened up until that point, I would think, hey, they just found me, right? But basically, obviously, there were a couple of things that I was able to do that provided opportunity for that to happen, right? So one of the biggest things is that the marketing strategy. I think what really forced me to be creative was that I was still in college and I was in a very small town. So I didn't have access to the shoes to put my shoelaces in, or I didn't have access to the just the different channels right down the street or the stores that could potentially carry my product. So it forced me to be really creative. And there's a couple of things that I really had to structure my business behind. And I needed to create customers who knew who I was or knew who Lux Brand was. And they also trusted Lux Brand. And then they also liked us as well. So I needed to make sure that I could communicate with them so that they can connect with the brand and our vision. And it had to be more than just a product. It had to be also a story behind what's happening here.
So how did you learn all of that? I mean, did you just kind of fall into it, or did you have people helping you? I mean, you're only like 4 or 5 years out of college, and this is the type of stuff that people 10, 15 years older than you are just learning about.
Yeah. Well, I think, I can accredit a lot of it. Definitely, for sure. I've had help. I've had mentors. If you don't have a mentor, please go get one if anybody's listening. But I think, for me, I was very willing to just listen.
Mm-hmm.
I was very willing to just listen and learn because I didn't know anything coming into business.
Mm-hmm.
So I was fortunate enough to be able to learn some really quality things and apply those with all of the built up energy that I had coming from football, so that's really, when I got off, I moved forward with a chip on my shoulder and I worked extremely hard, and that is the result. When you work hard, things happen.
So what's the biggest business challenge you are currently facing with your company, with both companies, I guess?
I think the biggest challenge is consistency. Right now, I don't know about you guys, but when you are running several different things and you're managing several moving parts that are exponentially growing at the same time, it becomes tough. You have to rely on the people. You have to rely on the process, and you also have to rely on the platform, which I believe are the 3 key ingredients to building a very powerful business. Okay. So one of the biggest things that is helping me overcome that right now is the processes. So I've realized that the more strict and the more straightforward my processes are, and what I mean by process is anything that basically we have to do more than 3 times. There needs to be a very strategic checklist of what's happening. So as well-defined, the more well-defined that is, the easier it is for not only myself, but others who are helping me out to implement. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what's really, really, helping me get through the consistency piece now.
Okay. So how many people do you have now with Lux Brand?
So it's a mixture of quite a few people. So outside of, just different people who are just doing contract work. I would say about 10 different people who, just kind of have different roles. So most of them are, some can be literally on the manufacturing side, but also some are actually in working on, different sales opportunities and things like that with me.
Okay. All right. So therefore, you've got to have a lot of different processes here to take care of all the different aspects of what you're doing. So,
Correct.
so did you define all those yourself, or do you have somebody helping you build those processes?
Well, most of them, I had a little help. But those people were very, very gracious, and they lent their time and their energy, and they poured into me, and that got me to a certain point to where I could actually take it to the next level myself. And then, obviously, as you go and you grow, there's going to need to be more people who are involved as well. So, definitely started off with getting help, but now I understand the power process. So anytime that I do something, or anytime that my people are doing something, we also make sure we document that, so that the next person who comes along can actually perform just like we are able to perform.
Yeah, because if you step back and think about it, all your company assets are locked up in here. They walk out the building at the end of each day. And
yep.
They can go someplace else, and now you're at the short end of the stick.
You're right. So one of the things that I like to think about is being able to walk away from your business for 6 months. Not saying that anyone want to. I know I wouldn't want to. I love what I do. But if you can walk away from your business, you want to make sure that the process is so well defined that others can do it too. So, that's something to really think about. And when you think about it, you're like, wow. I remember my first time thinking about it. I still think about it to this day. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so far away from that. And that means that I need to do some more work in my processes.
Yeah, well, just think about it. Don't even think 6 months. If you wanted to take a break and go on vacation for 2 weeks, can your company function during that period of time? You come back and it's still there and it hasn't burned down around you.
Right. Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. So what are the kind of perceived obstacles that you see that might be preventing you from achieving the success that you're seeking?
Yeah, I think people may be one of the obstacles that I'm getting ready to face, because as you grow, you need more people. And we know just by being in small businesses, it's hard to come by people who just really understand the vision and who are really willing to contribute, and also help their peers out while contributing. So I think that is the biggest piece. I think I've harped on processes a lot. We make sure that we fine tune those, the platform as well. There's so many different options there, but I think the people is going to be the biggest thing that I have to really, really focus on to achieve the growth that I predict in the future.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things. At first, you want to be able to scale and grow, and when you do that, you have to people who are now wearing multiple hats are going to have to differentiate out and be specialized. But trying to get people that align with your vision is the challenge.
Yeah, it is. And if you think about it, people, process, and platform. So the right people follow a process, all right, and they use a platform to do this at scale. So that's kind of the way to really think about how to build that powerful business.
Yeah. So right now, how are you finding new people as you expand?
Yeah. So there's a couple of different things. There's one way that I have actually seen to be the best, and that is through referrals. That is through trusted friends who are running businesses as well. And, for example, one of our most recent people who to come on is a film guy, and he literally, he's amazing. And that came through a referral, and he's been very diligent. And that is exactly what the friend of mine who actually said, hey, this guy's the real deal. He's going to be diligent. And that is exactly what he is.
So how are you doing with like marketing? Because I mean, not everybody, an entrepreneur, really understands marketing and sales.
Right.
So so how are you able to grow that aspect?
Yeah. So I think, one of the biggest things for me, and I tell this story a lot, but trying to grow a shoelace company in the middle of nowhere almost, it's pretty tough. So for me, I had to be very creative. And along the way, I was able to adapt and learn, test and learn more, fail and learn even more, right? So what this led me to doing is basically seeing what strategies work and what strategies don't work in terms of marketing. I
Mhm.
had to be creative. If I wanted to land my shoelaces if I wanted to, actually get customers to buy in New York or California, I had to figure out ways to touch those markets.
Yeah.
And I had to figure out a way to do that without breaking my little bitty bank that I had in college. so, um, but that actually learning that and figuring out how to do that, obviously I figured something out because I was able to land it on Good Morning America and get features on NFL Network and stuff like that. But that actually led to the start and success of my other company as well, which is called BizBuzz.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that in just a moment. So let me ask you this. How did you determine the price point for your shoelaces? Since this was kind of like a brand new market there. How did you decide
Yeah.
how to price it properly?
That's a great question. So yeah, I did not look at any traditional laces at all because I knew that this would be a completely different ball game. So I never did look at the $1 laces that you buy at Walmart, right? So I did have to come up with a completely different price point. And one of the biggest things is what it cost me. I wanted to make sure that we were leaving enough margin for us to actually be profitable and to build a company that can scale.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the major things that I looked into when building that. But also, I wanted to make sure that the market could actually perceive it. I wanted to make sure that the vision was there. And what really, really started to help out was the credibility that we were getting from the celebrity people who were wearing the laces. So that definitely allowed us to, have those premium leather laces as well.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's talk about BizBuzz now. So who are you working with in terms of BizBuzz now?
Yeah, so we work with mostly small to medium sized businesses. Most of these businesses are local businesses. Okay, so they have a few unique things with them. They actually in most cases they have a brick and mortar store or a brick and mortar location. All right, you think about whether it's restaurants, multi location businesses, just so many different things. Hospitals. I mean, there's a ton of different people that we work with, but one thing is for sure that all of these customers have to go through, and that's something I call the customer journey. And so basically in that customer journey, what that usually looks like now is people have access to way more information about your business before they even decide to step foot in the door. So now they're pulling out their cell phones and they know exactly what other people say about you.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to formulate their opinion based on what other people say about you. They're going to look at your brand. They're going to go to your social media channels, and all of that's going to happen way before they even decide to come to your location or order from you online. Okay, and that's what BizBuzz appeals to. So basically, we consider there to be 5 different stages in that customer journey. Okay, so the first one is interest and awareness. All right, then it is search or your listings, then it is research or your reputation, and then you have the website or the point of conversion, and then also you have advocacy after the purchase. So basically, BizBuzz provides software that basically you can go in and you can actually fulfill and create and manage your marketing at those 5 areas. Okay. So we've got advertising software so that you can go in and see what ads are performing the best and which are not. You got listing software. So basically you go in there and correct all your listings. we have software for you to actually manage your reputation and your reviews and get more reviews and figure out what people are saying about you. But also we have, social media marketing software, so you can actually manage, or schedule your post out and manage what engagement you're getting, manage the comments and stuff like that, as well as websites. So you can actually build a one-click website for free now with us. And then lastly, we have partners that we partner with that basically connects the whole customer relations management process all in our platform. So what's unique about us is we can either give you the software for your internal teams and teach you how to win at every one of those stages, or we can do all for you as well on the services side of things.
All right. So now, I guess, has that taken a hit with the pandemic because people are not going to restaurants much, they're staying at home?
To my surprise, it actually has not. We've actually been growing month over month during the pandemic, and it is literally because there's a couple of things that we implemented. We wanted to we want to help people. That was the biggest thing. It's not always about the dollar. So we wanted to help people. And one of the biggest things that we did is we decided to release an express version of our products. So with this express version, you can actually do all of that stuff. And basically, we wanted to help those companies keep their doors open during the pandemic. And I say that this is very near and dear to me because my father, my grandfather, my uncle, and grandfather's 5 brothers all owned local businesses. So it's everywhere around me. I grew up in it, and I understand what those people are going through right now.
Okay. All right. So what are some of the common pitfalls or mistakes that, people who have like family-owned businesses have to be aware of that you can help them with?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Okay. Yeah. What are some of the common pitfalls or mistakes that, local entrepreneurs or family-owned businesses have to be aware of that you can help them with from BizBuzz?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that people do when they come to me is they say, "Hey, Ryan, we want to run ads." And their mindset is so focused on running ads and increasing the revenue that they bring in, but they don't think about all the other stages before that. They don't think about their reputation. They don't think about, can people find them online? Do they have a Google My Business page? Do they have the social channels? Do they have proof of concept or proof of performance, right? So what we have to do is we just educate them on, hey guys, there's several different stages. You want to make sure, one, your conversion point is fine-tuned and very easily accessible, and it's mobile friendly. Then step 2 and 3, you want to make sure your listings are there and people can find you and access you. And then step 3 is you want to make sure that your reputation and you have word of mouth or social proof that your product is great. And then all of that happens before you run ads. So lastly, after you've done that, then you're going to run ads. You can run ads, and that'll give you the best chance of actually converting a customer.
So do your customers then understand what the A/B testing is in terms of ads and all that?
Yes. So the one we always try to let them know, especially if they are purchasing ads from us and we're going to run their ads for them. But beforehand, yes, we try to educate them on, what that means. So for me, I'm a huge advocate for getting the data behind the ad and understanding what the audience is accepting or not accepting before increasing that budget or that spend on ads. Okay. So that's basically one of the things that's in my book. But basically what we do is, one of the strategies that we like to do is if we create videos, for example, we'll boost those posts. So let's say if we had a series of 9 videos, we'll boost those posts first to figure out which posts are resonating with the audience the most. Once we figure out which posts are resonating with the audience the most and is getting the most engagement or interactions, then we can actually increase the spend on those very specific posts and do retargeting. So what this does is basically makes us or helps us cut the fat and actually focus on what is working.
Okay. So are you using artificial intelligence at all in doing this analysis?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that we do, and obviously there's so many. Oh my goodness, there's a plethora of tools, but we definitely use artificial intelligence, and we make sure that we're obviously optimizing on every single day on these different ad campaigns.
Okay. All right, so that kind of leads me in. So have you read Eric Ries's book, The Lean Startup? Have you encountered that?
Yeah, so I'm very familiar with it. I haven't read it though. I have actually heard summaries of it, but I have not read the entire book. It's a great one though. I do know that a lot of my friends swear about it.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, that's the whole thing about fail fast, pivot, tweak, and keep going, but keep the end goal in mind. Don't get
Right.
diverted. And he went through a lot. He learned a lot, and it's interesting what he came up with is no different than what we've been known for several decades, but it's scaled down for the entrepreneur.
Mm.
And where he finally cut his teeth on it is IMVU, which is a social media interactive environment. I don't know if you've heard it. So one of the prior podcast guests is Lomit Patel, who is at IMVU, and he is the chief, I forget now, innovative marketer, I guess. And he's come up with his own book called Lean AI, for using AI for marketing and doing all this stuff. Because you can blast out thousands of tests. It's more than just A/B, but you can really zoom in and focus in on where you can get the biggest bang for your buck.
Right. Wow. I definitely have to check that out.
Yeah. Okay. So now we kind of talking a lot about you. So tell us how you went from being in a football scholarship to becoming the entrepreneur you are today.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little background story.
Okay.
All right. So for me, I had a father who played professional football. And I also had a cousin who played professional as well. And I say that because it was something that was so near and dear to me. My biggest dream was to follow in my father's footsteps and go on and play potentially for maybe the Green Bay Packers or the Ravens, right? But that was my biggest dream, to go and do that. All right. So there's one thing that my father always told me, and that was, hey, Ryan, don't worry about all the extra stuff. All you need to do is go out there and perform. Mm-hmm. And through high school, I did just that. I performed. I was fortunate enough to get recognized in different, books for, breaking the records for the Alabama records and stuff like that. But basically, I was that guy who would go to the big schools, and literally I would look at some of these guys who were just so massive, and I would run circles around some of them, but they were just so huge. For me, a lot of these bigger schools, they said I was just too short, for my position. Most of those guys were maybe 6'4", 6'5", but basically I was very fortunate enough to get a scholarship to the University of North Alabama. And my dream, when it first happened, I was just disgusted. To be quite honest, I wanted to go to a big school, but that actually happened to be the best thing that ever happened to me. So I love UNA and University of North Alabama to death right now, and the biggest thing for that was I went on to play, and things just didn't line up the way that I envisioned them. I would go up and I would practice every day, and I would spend so much energy and time. And to about 2 years in, I started to realize that, hey, I'm losing love for the game. And there were some things that that was out of my control, politics and all that kind of stuff that's involved in sports. And for me, this kind of just led me to being unhappy, so at this point, here I am looking at year 3. And for me, I'm just like, I don't know how much of this I can give. I don't know how much energy I have left to give for this game. And one of the biggest things was that I wanted to, for one, my grades were slipping, and, it's very hard and very time consuming to keep up with all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And the other thing was I felt like I could use the energy to do something else. I didn't even know if that was going to be building a business at the time, but I just knew that I wanted to pivot somewhere else, or maybe I could learn how to do something else involving business. Okay. So, year three, basically had decided maybe it's time for me to actually go and talk to, my parents, or my loved ones, and see what they have to say about it. So one of the biggest things, I definitely couldn't talk to my dad at first. I said, no, there's no way I'm going to talk to him. I'm scared. I don't know what he's going to say. Maybe he's going to disown me as his child. I don't know. So I went to my mother, and she said what I feel like most mothers would say: you've lost your darn mind.
Yeah.
And this was something that I had to battle. I had to deal with. I had to figure out, like, oh my goodness, that was an astounding no. Maybe I need to go to my grandfather. And he kind of told me the same thing in a very nice way. But I knew it meant no. And eventually that is when, the Christmas break happened that I talked about earlier, where basically I said, okay, well, here I am. Two people think I'm crazy. I feel like I'm going to get disowned by my family if I do decide to move from a full scholarship. So what do I do? So after that Christmas break, that's what led me to like trying to figure something out in a hurry. After that Christmas break, went to school. And this is where you and I I'm so thankful for them, because none of this would have happened without it being a smaller school. So one day I decided to just get on my computer and look up everybody in the College of Business that I possibly could. I reached out to the dean. I reached out to everyone else below. And I said, listen, I know you don't know who I am, but I am in a predicament and I don't know how to get out of it. And I also have an idea, which is shoelaces. So basically, to make a long story short, after that, I was able to actually go into a meeting with a man named Dr. Boer, and I spent about an hour just pouring my entire story into him. And I wanted him to tell me, was I crazy or not for thinking about leaving a full scholarship? And he said two things after that meeting. He said, for one, I like your idea. And let's come back and let's work on it during the summer. He asked me, was I 100% in? I said, I'm 110% in. So the next thing he said was, Ryan, it seems like you already have your answer. And I never forget walking away from that meeting mad, because he didn't tell me, was I crazy or was I not? So I decided to go to the next person. And I spent about an hour with him as well. And he literally said the exact same thing. He said, Ryan, it seems like you already have your answer. And at that moment, I knew it was time for me to talk to my father. And this was one of the turning points in my life, because I finally built up enough courage to go and talk to my father. And I told him everything that, he had already been sensing some things. Yeah. But I told him everything. I poured it all on the table. And he said, Ryan, I support you 100% and everything that you do and whatever your decision is. And at that moment, because I definitely thought his reaction was going to be something completely different. At that moment, I knew it was time. It was time for me to move on and transition. And I did just that. And after that, things really started to really line up. So here I am going off of a scholarship, and I was fortunate enough to actually, I think even before a year out, I was back on scholarship just by hard work and dedication and internships and things like that. So that's my story, and I'm just so thankful that it happened that way.
Well, there's a lot of love in that story too. and the good thing, and I could see when you first approached your mother or your grandfather, you didn't have an idea what you wanted to do. You just weren't happy. But when you put the two together, that's when it came together. Happened.
That's a great point. Yes. When I was able to put those together, it put something in me, and it put a drive in me like no other.
Okay. All right. So in a kind of similar frame, can you share an experience you had growing up that influences how you approach business today?
Yeah. I think, I want to tell you a story. So one day, I was actually in a meeting. And this is after I had started my company, my first company, Lux Brand. I was in a board meeting for the College of Business, and I went, and this is my first time doing a gig like this where I could go up and speak to a bunch of very professional, high-level people and just tell them my story. And one of them said, Ryan, it seems like you have a very big heart for giving back. Where does that come from? And it kind of baffled me for a second because I had never been asked a question like this. And I had to really think about it and figure out, Ryan, like, where does this come from? And I realized, I said, well, I've watched my father, my mother, my grandfather, grandparents literally just give everything, specifically my grandfather. I watched him give the shirt off of his back to people. And I remember I would fuss when I was little. Sometimes I would say, Granddad, why are you doing this for them? They don't even appreciate it. They don't deserve it. And, growing up, as I got older, I realized why. Because that was just that was the person he was. And that's why he was very successful. Mm-hmm. And this rubbed off on me, so I think that is definitely the reason there. I love to, I want to give back, and I want to, make sure that I inspire people because I've always had help as well.
Okay. All right. So we're almost out of time here. So let me just ask you this. Now, 5 years in, if you had to start everything over from scratch again, what would you do differently today? And what would you keep doing the same?
That's a good one. I definitely wouldn't change going to UNA and then getting off a scholarship. I wouldn't change any of that. That's a tough one. I don't know if I would change anything, honestly. There's been times that were rough, but they were rough for a reason. They were meant to teach me something.
Yeah.
And I think that is what I should always cherish, is the journey and the things that happen, because that is what literally has made me who I am today.
Well, Ryan, I think you're an exceptional young man. So how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about you and get your advice?
Sure. So you can actually visit my website at ryandmason.com. And on that website, when you get there, there's a couple of things that you can do. If you scroll down, you'll see 3 bubbles, and basically you can book me to come and speak, or you can actually work directly with me, or you can actually go ahead and sign up or get started for free with BizBuzz. So those are the 3 things that you can do. It's right on the page. We also have a book that's going to be releasing here at the end of the year in November. And basically that's called the Digital Playbook. And basically that's me putting my entire marketing process that has helped me achieve success, and also our clients, all on paper and book form. So that will be on the website as well.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, Ryan, this has been great talking with you. And we just keep going on, but I don't want to eat up your evening. It's getting late where you are. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much again for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Business Performance Podcast with your business coach, Henry Schneider. For more episodes and business strategies, please visit welcome.ppqc.net/blog. That's www.welcome.ppqc.net/blog. And remember to subscribe so you can get the latest episodes. Thank you.